Okay. So let's go ahead and begin. Andy, welcome, brother. So great to have you here today. And I appreciate you. For those of you tuning in, we have Andy Grant of Real Men Feel. Andy is the host of the Real Men Feel podcast. And Andy, I was taking a look at your website a bit last night and kind of preparing for our conversation today. And I think you've been doing your show since 2016, I think I saw, correct?
Correct. Yeah. Recently had my 5th year anniversary this year. Yeah.
Wonderful, brother. Well, congratulations on that. So host of the Real Men Feel podcast, I think over 100 or 200 episodes, I think I saw.
Yeah. I think 238 dropped this week.
Yeah. Awesome, brother. Awesome. Also an author.
Right.
Men's coach, and also I think you run the Real Men Feel men's community as well. Is that correct?
Correct.
Awesome, brother. Awesome. Well, so good to have you here. And this is the Making Peace with Porn. I'm sorry, the Porn to Purpose podcast, episode number 6 on our end as well. And Andy was gracious enough to have me on his show. I think Andy was at sometime back in 2020, correct?
Yeah. Again, time is a blur these days, but yes, I do for sure know that you were on.
Yes, brother. Well, that was super cool in one of my earlier podcast experiences. So I really appreciated that. So I thought it would be cool to have you into our community and share what you've been doing and the work you've been doing with the men and see how we might be of support to you and would love to expose our audience to the work that you're doing. So with that, brother, I'd love to just invite you just to kind of open up and if you would maybe share a little bit about the work you've been doing, maybe inside of Real Men Feel and what else has been going on for you as of late.
Yep. So I've been a coach since 2010 and I work as an energy coach. And so it's very intuitive and spiritual and lots of energy work and energy tools. And I discovered them all literally to save my own life. I grew up, I was very depressed. I had multiple suicide attempts in my teens into my 20s. And the traditional model just was not bringing me relief. It was only once I discovered energy work and the power of meditation and intention and visualization and really realized that some of the emotions I was dealing with weren't mine. Like I was this energetic sponge kind of picking things up without any sort of boundaries at all to myself. So as I learned about this and discovered I was much more than just this meat suit. That's what brought me into coaching and being of service. Yeah. And again, since 2010, most of my clients have always been women. But about 5 years ago, I started just that nudge and that voice over like, you got to make something for men. You got to invite men in. You got to invite men to open up. So that Real Men Feel came out of that. Mm-hmm. And as I was thinking about what does it mean to be a man? And I thought, well, wouldn't it be cool if we thought, look at that real man over there crying. Look at that real man if they're talking about his shame. Like what if that's what we saw? Instead of this false sense of stoicism and the rugged individual and, I'll kill everything I need to eat and I'll kill everything that makes me want to hurt too. Like it just, it's this distorted warrior mentality.
Yeah, brother.
Right? That we're always at war, but when we open up to our spirituality, we open up to our hearts, we can be a warrior of the light, a warrior for good, a warrior of service. Yes. So that's what's really driving the mission. When I first started Real Men Feel, my goal was to go at least 3 episodes before I gave up. Like there we go. I'm up, and I've got, I've got guests booked all the way up through like episode 292, I believe. But yeah, so it's been an amazing journey. And what I'm finding a lot of men dealing with these days, a lot of more men are waking up. And realizing there's more to them than, again, we're not just a meat suit. Yeah. And I facilitate meetings at mensgroup.com now and been leading meditations there and having guys meditate for the first time and they're blown away by how easy it is and that they feel things and they notice things. And, I think it's a beautiful time. The pandemic has given people the chance to go inside. It's not maybe just blame the rest of the world on themselves. Has the rest of the world kind of stopped? You had a chance to be by yourself and see what's bubbling up inside of you. But, we spoke a while ago and, I'm finding how much men are kind of driven by fear, but by the fear of other men realizing we have fears that don't have the big, even before COVID, the biggest mask that men wore was that got it all figured out. I'm doing just fine. Right? Don't need your help. No, how you doing? Great. Yeah. But the truth for most men is that we're allowed to feel angry or okay. Like that, like our peak emotional range is like, okay, satisfaction is kind of the peak, and there's just so much more than that. And again, part of Real Men Feel is reminding men that they are human, and all humans have a full range of emotions. There aren't some emotions that are for men and some that are for women. Yeah. And it's just every week talking to different men and having guys come in and share their story and then how they're being of service, to realize that authenticity and vulnerability and compassion are really superpowers. They're great tools that men can use, but we haven't been taught that. And in fact, we've often been taught the contrary to that.
Yeah. Yeah. With that, Andy, have you been able to kind of pinpoint like where in humanity, maybe in the last 100 or couple hundred years, was this like requirement for men like to begin suppressing emotion? I mean, I wonder if it's always been like that, or I've kind of, in some of the work that I've done, I've kind of become to understood that during a lot of the like, for instance, like wartime, men had to become more stoic, had to get better at suppressing emotion and just kind of dealing and providing and just to survive, really. I mean, have you ever looked into anything like that, or do you have any suspicion of how this came about?
Yeah, it's certainly part of our biology. We can't, we're on the hunt or we're fleeing from being hunted. You can't really think about, well, I'm not feeling quite myself today, right?
Yeah.
There's a part of focus and there's a competitiveness and a drive, but the distortion is thinking that's all we are, right? And I've looked at, I think it was like the ancient Greeks and the soldiers, and from the movie like 300, those type of guys, they would mourn and weep and grieve in battle and then go right back at it.
Right.
So ancient men allowed the full range. But again, this false, like, stoicism is great, but we have this false sense of stoicism that that's all there is. And for too many guys, they think mastering their emotions means denying them. I find the best way that I can navigate my life is when any emotion shows up, I'm willing to feel it that moment.
Yeah.
Not decide it's good, bad, indifferent, because every emotion will be felt, but it usually comes out distorted, comes out as rage, it comes out, we take things out on the people we love the most instead of what's actually got us upset. So that's the problem. But yeah, it's rooted in biology, but society has made us much more limited than we truly are as men.
Yeah. What are some of the dangers of, or what sort of issues do you see stemming from men suppressing these emotions, from not dealing with these emotions? What do you see as a result of that, Andy?
Look around, watch the news. I mean, it's bad relationships, it's addictions, it's destruction, it's rage, it's workplace violence, it's gun violence, it's wars, it's looting, it's criminality, it's anxiety, it's depression, it's low self-esteem, it's the blaming of others, it's what I feel the biggest problem now is this dehumanization. A person go, it's them, they did it, right? They're the reason I'm not doing well. But it all comes down to taking responsibility.
Yeah.
And I used to fear responsibility. I thought responsibility meant blame. Right? But responsibility for your own life means that you're in charge, and you can't change someone else's life, you can only change yours. So when I'm willing to take responsibility for how I feel, how I've acted, even if I don't like it, I stop putting it onto someone else. I don't give ownership of my life to somebody else. So you can take responsibility for your life, for your growth, for your choices. And there's some compassion in there, because I believe we're all doing the best we can in every moment. And with today's awareness, if I was to judge myself 10 years ago, I could see, oh, look at that mistake, all these wrong actions. But I have a different level of awareness and consciousness now.
Yeah.
So, but by taking responsibility, it allows me to evolve. Right? If I keep saying, if everything is somebody else's fault, there's nothing I can really do about it.
Right. Right. What is what if a man is not like wanting to deal with his emotions? What if he's not liking the way that he's feeling?
Too bad.
Yeah.
And it is like, I don't like it. We have to deal with it.
What's the value of dealing with it, Andy?
Freedom. I find that whatever emotion I'm resisting, I don't want to touch, it makes it last longer. What you resist persists. Yeah. When I'm willing to feel a so-called negative emotion, It passes quickly and much easier than I thought it would.
Yeah.
Right? Emotions are really, it's energy in motion. They want to pass through us. Like our emotions they're like our GPS system. Like my emotions tell me that my thoughts and actions are in alignment with my higher self. They feel good or they don't.
Yeah.
And it's really an invitation, like, all right, what am I thinking about, or what action am I taking that's making me feel this, whatever I'm labeling negativity, shame, guilt, sorrow, whatever it might be. But it's something that has to be dealt with. Just because I don't like it, that's almost more of an invitation. If I don't like it, well, you better feel it quick to get it over with, to get through this. Otherwise, you're going to be dragging that with you for years, for decades. And energy is contagious, right? Our happiness and joy spreads to others, but so that, misery loves company. One of the, oldest cliches we've got, and it's true.
Right.
So you've got to be willing to take responsibility for your misery, do something about it, feel it, let it go. What can you do to change your mood, change your physical state, and then let that new positive, that better feeling energy spread to others as well.
Yeah, brother. Yeah. You mentioned, you kind of hit on like what we resist persists. In my own journey, I've been doing a lot more work, and I think creating a lot more consciousness and awareness around feeling my emotions, being with my emotions, even the ones that are painful. And I find that as I allow myself to be present with my emotions, to be present with whatever comes up, it's like it comes up, it may be painful, but there's a cleansing and a healing that almost comes as I'm willing. And there's as I'm willing to be more with myself. And I find whenever I resist certain emotions, feelings, whatever they may be, whenever I resist, it seems like suffering results from that.
True. Yeah, you've said on the other side of every bad feeling is a better feeling.
Yeah.
The longer we fight and deny, this is it's Tuesday, I shouldn't feel bad on Tuesday, or this isn't my fault. Why am I feeling this? This someone the longer we fight our again so-called negative emotions, it keeps us in this victim mentality, right? We're the victim of our own feelings. But by allowing it to pass through you, well, what's here? I believe in every experience, every misadventure we have, there's a gift.
Yeah.
And there's a gift in our pain. There's teaching in our pain. And if you aren't willing to feel your pain, you're just going to keep repeating it, making it worse. And it's too many guys try to think their emotions. Yeah. Right. And then it's in our language. Well, I thought he was really angry. I thought I was going to lose my mind to that guy. Right. Well, what did you feel? And again, we're just not taught this, and we're not even encouraged to have this language for men.
Yeah. Yeah, brother. Right along where you are, in what you just shared there, I find that whenever I kind of just alluded to this, but as I'm willing to be with my emotions, I feel that my emotions are informing me in some way. There's a learning that's taking place as I cultivate this willingness to be with my emotions. It's very, very powerful.
Yeah. And you're feeling your emotions. It lets you separate, have discernment of like the voice, the judgment, the negativity of the ego thoughts versus how you're really feeling.
Yeah.
Right. Because they're different. But for a while, it all seems like the same like noise that we're dealing with.
Yeah. This ties in so well to the work that we're doing inside of the Making Peace with Porn community. So many of the brothers we find go to pornography or we go to whatever it might be, food, alcohol, drugs, cigarettes, to either oftentimes to escape emotion because we don't want to deal. Oftentimes we've adopted pornography or whatever behavior or habit early in life, maybe before we had the opportunity to really cultivate emotional maturity, and we never learned those skills. We never cultivated a willingness to be with our feelings. In all our life, we've been escaping and evading, and going to whatever it may be in order to deal with these emotions. And we spoke a little bit earlier, but I found very much that whenever we don't deal with our emotions, whenever we do suppress, whenever we do evade, that's when the shadow part of us seems to come out and kind of thrive in the form of many toxic and destructive behaviors.
Yeah. If we refuse to feel our truth, to feel what's actually happening in and around us, then it's easier to be distorted and be distracted. And, I believe that every addiction is rooted in an unwillingness to feel what's actually happening in yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Our problems, most of our problems are coming from our past that was never dealt with. And we just where this, tumbleweed of ever collecting scar tissue and wounds that keeps going forward and wondering what's wrong. And it's this thing next to me, this thing ahead of me. No, it's all this past crud I keep bringing with me and insisting. Like when I was younger, I didn't think I had depression. I didn't think I had suicidal thoughts. I thought I was depression. Like I thought, I'm thinking suicidal thoughts because I'm supposed to die. Yes, this is my message. And no, it was what I thought was my weakness, the little soft voices that said, don't go through that. No, don't do that. That was my strength. That was my heart. That was my life force. So until you're willing to feel, it's really challenging to separate the judgment, the after effects of our wounding is this low self-esteem, is this judgment, is this dehumanization of others and often ourselves.
Yeah.
But through feeling, your willingness to feel pain can prevent future pain from actually happening.
How so?
It allows you to live in the emotional moment. I mean, you both said when we stop resisting, when we're willing to feel our low points, it liberates us and gives us freedom to also feel the high points, right? We can't cut off just one range of our emotions, right? It's a pole, right? It's not just it's not good and bad. It's just the extent from shutting down to being open to love.
Yeah, right.
Fear and love. Are your choices made by fear? Is it constraint? You feel it in your body when you're not allowing yourself to feel. Like you get tighter, you get hunched over, you feel stress, you feel small. And allowing emotions to pass through you, it brings that more spaciousness. It's like a meditative state can be your living state when you're willing to feel what shows up the moment it shows up without judgment, without saying that's good, that's bad. It's like, I'm really upset. Yeah, and it doesn't mean I could be really angry and I don't have to express it. I go, oh, I'm really angry. Yep, okay, well, that's past. Doesn't mean I have to go like punch the guy that I think made me angry, right? But if we keep burying, suppressing, denying things, then it will come out. Regardless of what you believe, you have emotions. You don't want to have them. You want to think them, not feel them. And again, it comes out. Look at the results of your life. Look at your fruits, right? Is it addictive behaviors? Is it broken relationships? Is it bad self-esteem? Is it boundary issues? A common thing I hear from so many guys is, I don't want to be my father. And are you saying to yourself to a lot because you're following that same patterns, you're following that same wounding and not looking at it, not being willing to heal?
Yeah, brother. Yeah, what I'm thinking about is like, so whoever may be listening to this, and they're saying, maybe they don't recognize that like learning to feel more and be more present with their emotions and what's going on inside of them is an important piece of the puzzle for them. Like what may be some signs or some indications that this is something that someone may be benefited by exploring more?
Well, it's really, if it's not top of mind, if it's not showing up for you, then maybe it isn't. Because unfortunately, I feel like, it's probably true for all humans, but especially men, it's like we have to hit a rock bottom. Things have to be so difficult, we're willing to look at things. So if you're not there yet, then this might just seem all, fluffy and nice.
I appreciate
for me, I don't recommend my path, but it was only multiple failed suicide attempts that made me think, maybe there's a better way. I'm not good at living. I'm not good at dying. Maybe there's a better way to be living. And that's what made me willing. It all comes down to a willingness to be wrong. So I used to think life sucks, then you die. I thought the worldview was, if it's not dangerous, I can't trust anybody, I'm all on my own, and it's not safe. I love being wrong about that. I love realizing that life isn't fair. It's tilted in your favor if you're willing to feel, to tap into it. Guys are willing to talk about their guts, their instinct. But if you call it energy or intuition, well, now that's weird. Right. So just pick a word that fits with you. But again, like I grew up without any sort of religion, so I thought that maybe an atheist. When I thought I wanted to die, I just wanted everything to stop. I wasn't after some afterlife, and it wasn't any notion of hell. Like I thought, I'm living in hell. This is horrible. I want this to stop. How I'm feeling could stop by my willingness to really feel how bad I felt. Instead of just touching it and recoiling, right? Instead of touch it, oh, that feels gross. I want a way out of this through addiction or ending my life, right? But being willing, it's the dark night of the soul. Being willing to go into those depths and realize that there's light, there's beauty on the other side of our own darkness. But if we just, open the closet, look at the dark, like, ooh, and keep shutting that door, then nothing changes. We don't get anywhere.
Yeah. I love that so much. We are very aligned in our approaches to a lot of this thinking. And when I'm hearing you talk, I'm reminded of this idea of out is through, as you mentioned, being willing to go down to the depths and really maybe be in the hell for a bit, but that's the way out, Yeah.
And again, it's taking responsibility. My controlled descent into my personal hell is much more empowering and tolerable than when it feels like I'm just trapped, right?
Yeah.
It's all about, we're all powerful. We're all multidimensional. We're so much more capable and powerful and in control of our lives than we realize. But not if you think, I'm only a thinker, I'm not a feeler.
Yeah.
Right. We can't deny an aspect of our humanity and then be a well-rounded, healthy human.
Yeah, brother. Yeah, brother. You said something earlier, brother. I'd love for you to touch on again, if you would. And I'm right in line with you on this. You mentioned that life is not fair; it's actually tilted in our favor, and I'm right with you in that. I believe, I say something like, that the universe is conspiring in our favor, but that requires a lens. We have to learn to see it in that way and recognize, at least in my own personal philosophy, that everything, whether it appears this way or not, or feels this way or not, is actually working in the favor of our growth and our expansion, and that's such a powerful perspective to live by. Would you maybe flow on that a little bit, Andy?
Sure.
Talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah. And again, I did not believe this to be the case for a long time. And it's only learned experience. And again, a willingness to be wrong and see things differently. And life being tilted in our favor, life conspiring for us, doesn't mean we always get what we want. It's about what we need and what supports our growth, because growth isn't always fun and comfortable, but it's better than being stuck and feeling trapped.
Yeah.
I do a lot of work with the Akashic Records. So it's a really spiritual lens and looking at people from their soul and kind of the entire journey they're on. And something that comes from the records often is that you can't have an inspired thought. You can't be drawn to something that you're not capable of attaining. But that would just make the universe just a big joke. It's just a practical joke that, Matt, here's all these things that you want to chase that you can't ever do. Ha ha. And it's just like, that's not how it works. So anything you're drawn to is something that you can accomplish. But it might be more challenging. It's not going to be instantaneous. And we have this instantaneous culture. If I'm not an expert at something in a weekend, well, then it's not worth doing.
Yeah.
Right? And I've certainly have lived that way a lot as a kid and in my 20s. But life is meant to be joyous. Life is meant to be fun. Life is meant to feel good. And another thing that no one ever shared to me when I was a depressed kid was that service feels so good.
Yeah, brother.
Right. And from being the Boy Scout helping an old lady across the street, and that kind of cliche, to actually, how can I help someone else? How can I build a community? How can I make friends with like-minded people? Having that courage to say, I feel this, what seems like this ugly, gross way, and letting others stay there. I hear you. And then they go, yeah, I feel that way right now, or I felt that way last year. Right. Realizing we aren't so alone. It's, again, this distorted stoicism that says, I'm the rugged individual, I've got to do it all by myself. It's in our biology, it's in our history. No, we are community builders, we are tribe builders. So we have all these distorted, conflicting notions. And I always say that the only definition of masculinity that matters is yours. And if yours doesn't feel good, be willing to tear it down, rewrite it.
Yeah.
Right? If you feel like a man, then by definition, whatever you do is manly. Whatever you do is masculine. Be it, becoming a florist or a professional ballet dancer, whatever it is. There's nothing that doesn't make you, now you're not a man anymore.
Right.
Like, there is no man card. Like, or maybe there is. It's us, right? I am the physical man card for myself. Right?
I love that, brother. That just to touch one more time on that, recognizing, if we choose, that life is conspiring in our favor, tilted in our favor, working for us, to me really speaks to a consciousness of accountable and responsible versus victim. Life is not happening to me, against me, as my adversary. It is my ally. and whenever we look at that, we say, wow, I'm actually not a victim. I'm actually owning this, and I'm stepping more fully and more powerfully into this. And I also wanted to say, you mentioned the value and the joy and the inspiration that comes from being in service, and what I found is, and you also spoke as you were flowing there a little bit about the universe kind of giving you these things, these desires, these gifts, these talents. I call them superpowers, and what I find is really the sweet spot for me, and something I feel is really worth just continuing to be intentional about in my own life is, what if I could do more of that which I love, and turns me on and inspires me and energizes me, and do that in contribution to others as well. That to me is like the sweet spot.
Yeah. And you bring up a really great point there, in that you were asking a question there. And the function of our brain is to answer questions. When my questions were, why do I suck? Mm-hmm. Why is everything so painful? Why am I no good at things? Why am I such a loser? Why am I better off dead? My brain would look for reasons, would try to answer those questions. When I ask, how can it get even better than this?
Yeah.
How can I do more of what I love? How can I help other people and get greatly compensated for doing that? Right? They're uplifting. I feel energized just saying those out loud. And I say, you're lighting up too. Mm-hmm. It's how we speak to ourselves. Again, it's much more about energy than our thoughts, than our training. What are the questions we're asking? Are they supportive? Mm-hmm. Are they empowering? Are we giving away our power in what we ask? Are we asking for evidence of how shitty we feel? Mm-hmm. Right? It's responsibility. Thoughts, feelings, and actions. All those add up to our results. If you don't like your results, you can look at your thoughts, feeling, and actions.
Yeah.
That's why emotions are so important.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got blocks, if you're not willing to feel things, if you're not willing to feel certain things, you can't create certain things. Mm-hmm. Right. And again, if I'm not willing to feel horribly depressed, then I'm not willing to feel as joyous as I could to.
Yeah, brother. Yeah.
Again, it's much more than, something. I've seen bad jokes about men, like we have, hungry, horny, angry, and like that's it. Right. Yeah. And there's a lot more to us.
That's right. Yeah, brother. I to touch on that comment you made about questions, I'm sure you've heard this too, but I heard something like, the quality of our life is dependent upon the quality of the questions I think we ask ourselves, or something like that. Yeah, so powerful. True. Just opens our mind and our perception up just to bigger and more powerful ways of thinking, and go ahead.
It all comes from experience. Like this is all just chatter and talk until you do it. Yeah. You got to prove it to yourself. And that's what, anything that someone says, I hope I say something that interests you enough to try it, but it's your experience. Trust your experience, not somebody else's, not somebody that puts it down, not somebody that condemns or says it's nonsense, doesn't work, who's never tried something. Mm-hmm. Right. For me, it was like positive affirmations and gratitude journaling are things that I was recommended for years. And I thought, oh, that's silly. That's nonsense. I'm not going to do that. And then I did, oh, wow, I feel better. Maybe what if it's more important to be happy than to be right? And that was just a huge shift. And there was a question in that too, like what if? Huh.
Yeah.
And it's just empowering. And we have the ability to take that power.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You mentioned a minute or so ago about thoughts, feelings, and actions kind of create our life experience, really, Yeah. And what I find, like what we find in our community in the Making Peace with Porn work, and or anyone who's really kind of in this cycle of repeating the same patterns. They call it the karmic cul-de-sac very often. What I find, and the reason I find that the meditation practice and the awareness practice and the cultivation of consciousness practices, I know many of which you teach, are so important, because very often I think maybe in earlier stages of our evolution or of our awareness or awakeness or consciousness, we're not aware that thoughts are leading to emotions, are leading to actions, which lead to thoughts and there's just almost an unconscious cycle of oftentimes self-destructive behavior that's occurring.
Yeah, because as a kid, as I'm dealing with depression, suicidal thoughts, I was told that it was my brain chemistry. Like I was at the mercy of my feelings. Something was wrong with me. No one ever said it could be fixed, it would be changed. Like one of the reasons I speak openly about my suicide attempts is because as a kid, I never heard of anyone that ever really thought they wanted to die, and then years later were glad they didn't.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that can go away, that can be healed, that can whatever it is. And when I discovered that thoughts come first, that I could change how I feel by noticing what I'm focused on with my thoughts, that was huge for me, really huge. And again, I recommend people experience it, try this. You know, when you feel gross, all right, what am I thinking about? Oh, am I thinking about how gross I feel? Am I just kind of feeding this loop, this karmic loop? What if I choose with effort to focus on something I know I like? What if I choose to focus on what if I make myself watch, Simpsons and the Seinfeld, just watch things until I'm giggling for no good reason? Oh wait, I forgot. I was depressed 5 minutes ago because now I'm laughing at something. Like, how can both these things be true?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So powerful, man. I had a similar experience. It was a big part of my waking up. I was about age 25. I was in the hotel industry. I was in a career that I had worked very hard in, and I had ascended very quickly, and I was doing well, but I was really unhappy, and I was just plagued with these secular patterns of thinking, feeling, and behaving. And I was in a very dark place. I wanted to die as well. It was like my suicidal point in life, and I remember that point, or that moment of awareness. I had not gotten into any sort of meditation or mindfulness practices yet, but I remember sitting in my office desk, and there was just a light that all of a sudden turned on one moment, when I said, wait a minute, if I can see these thoughts, if I can notice these feelings, then they're not me. As you kind of mentioned early in your journey, I kind of had this moment of awakening that said, I'm not my thoughts. I'm not my feelings, just as you mentioned. And whenever I had that, there was like this moment of awakening, and it was like I realized that I was the observer, and it was in the pit of my hell, and I wanted to die as well, brother. And that was kind of the awakening for me when I began I remember, like, that night or the next night, I went to the bookstore and I began searching the psychology section and the personal development section. And I picked out a book by Thich Nhat Hanh on understanding our mind. And I picked out a really simple book on meditation, just like how to meditate, like ABCs, which was really beautiful and helped me establish a regular meditation practice. And I also picked up at that time a book by Joe Dispenza about rewiring the brain, and that was really the beginning of my mindfulness and meditation practice, and really the beginning of the path that I'm on today,
Yeah. And you were brave enough to feel those uncomfortable, to feel the bad feelings and see, what is this telling me? Our unhappiness is telling us, whatever we're doing, and think about, there's got to be a better way.
Yeah.
But instead, like, I'm unhappy, I'm gross, I'm going to numb these feelings. Yeah. Alcohol, drugs, sex, porn, whatever it is. But if we're willing to feel it, the solution is also there. Right. But you got to be honest with yourself, and again, feel it. What's the fear? What's the dread? Oh, I feel, for me, it was however gross I feel, this is how I'll always be. Yeah. I was hopeless and helpless. Which is a toxic combination. It's literally a deadly combination. But by willing to feel something, you can discover hope again.
Yeah, brother. Yeah, a lot of my dysfunction and a theme for me throughout my life has been sexuality. I had childhood sexual experiences as well, and I can really relate to. I picked up pornography at an early age and always had questions and issues around my sexuality. And that's where a lot of my darkness and a lot of my pain and a lot of my suffering came from, in like suppressing of myself, resistance of myself. You mentioned these feelings of feeling gross. You said that a couple of times, and I can definitely relate to that, and the wanting to suppress that, to not deal with that. And I found such power in just opening up and fully like allowing myself to feel and be all of me. And I think I'm still doing that, like allowing my full, true, authentic essence to come through, and to say, whatever it is, I'm going to love that, and I'm going to allow it to come through. And through that process, it's so healing and so empowering, and frees up so much energy that we've been using to resist ourselves for so long.
Yeah. Right. It's tapping into your authentic self, allowing everything to flow through you. So what's not you can leave easier too, because that's a lot of the stuff, by resisting and holding on, not wanting to feel our feelings. But we are meant for more, and there always is more. And we talk about evolution of a species, and I say over and over, the only constant in life is change.
Mm-hmm.
So we're always going to be evolving. I'll be aware, your consciousness, your awareness, discovery, learning. It's not like we don't beat ourselves up at 13 that I haven't learned how to drive yet.
Yeah.
But as men, we'll often like, oh, why did I do that mistake? Why haven't I learned what I'm learning now? Why didn't I know this years ago? And it's silly. Back to realizing how life supports you. I ended up in mental hospitals after a number of my suicide attempts. And I always came out of the hospital in a better place. Like, I was supported. I landed a new job. Like, all these things were like, wow. And for a while, I had this distorted view that, when I try to kill myself, life gets better. And then like, wait, what if I just skip that part? Oh, life, I was always supported, even when thought I was at my worst, when I thought I was at the end. Those feelings, those thoughts feel horrible because it's not what you're meant to do. Right? If ending our life was ever the best thing for us, it would feel good, wouldn't it? Wouldn't by definition, like, oh, good, I've got the solution. I feel so much relief now. But no, it still feels gross. It's this torment because the authentic part of you, that life force, that energy, that the part that connects us all, the force, whatever you want to call it, is there. Yeah. And it wants to evolve and continue.
Yeah, brother. Well, I thought I had something really brilliant there to say, but what are you going to do? What are you going to do?
I'm sure you do.
I appreciate it, brother. I would love to ask you to touch on some of the energy work that you talk about. I know you said that's, I didn't really realize that about you when I was going through your stuff. I know you were doing a lot of the work with the men and the feeling and stuff like that, but our feelings are energy, are they not?
Yeah. Everything's energy.
Yeah.
Like our ears, our eyes, like we're perceiving energy all the time.
Right.
So to say that, oh, nothing is energy, like, no, it all is.
Right.
We just aren't talking about all the different ways we can feel, and we
right. What does some of your, can you share maybe a little bit about some of the energy work you're doing and what that looks like and what the application is in some of your practice?
How to best put this all? So in my coaching practice, like I can tune into someone and see the energy. So you might be telling a story about something. I go, oh, here's the energy. Oh, it's rooted in this old wound, and we'll just stop and we'll move that energy. And it's using the power of visualization and imagery and guided meditations to literally take things out of your space, take things out of your aura. And sometimes it's just with awareness. With the Akashic Records, often is just awareness is enough to heal. Like you're carrying that because of something that was said to you when you were 3 years old that you decided that was truth, but it's not. Like, oh, and that can be enough to liberate and just let go. But it's in all our language and lingo. I'm sure we've all had the experience of, you had a party and you walk up to a group that's laughing and you get in with them and you just start laughing too. You missed the joke, but that, again, energy is contagious. So we experience this all the time. And the same, it's in our language. You walk into a room where someone's had a fight and like, oh, it's heavy. Oh, I feel something. I feel the weight of this room. Oh, people just got fired here at work. Oh, wow, I can feel that, right? But then if I say, your problem's rooted in energy, let's change your energy. Oh, well, that's crazy talk. Yeah. And again, I thought it was crazy too until I had experiences, right? But yeah, so when I work with people, it's connect them to light, connect them to gold, help wash in, bring in the energy that keeps us all alive, bring in more life force to help wash away what you're holding on to, all the old things. We can, I work with clients that were unconsciously holding on to the energy of past relationships, even people that have passed on, because that's how I can still stay connected. Yeah. I can still love this person by holding on to my shame about their loss. I hold on to my guilt to honor this person that's no longer in my life. It's like, no, you honor people in your life by living your best life. I'll talk with people that have lost their kids to suicide, and show them that was a mistake by living your best life. Like don't follow despair by matching that despair. Yeah. Like, again, things feel gross. That's our warning sign. Not to not feel it, but like, all right, whatever I'm focused on is not the way to go. But let me feel into this path. We all do what I call emotional time travel. I'm gonna go back to the past and beat myself up for all the things I did wrong. Or I'm going to jump to the future and start worrying about things that haven't happened yet, that don't exist. But worrying is praying for bad things to happen. And right now, this moment is when my future is being created. This moment is when my life is being lived. So to pull our energy back to us from the past, from the future, that's when we are our creative God self, right? It's taking full responsibility. It's realizing that you're in charge. It's not dehumanizing. It's not victimizing. It's not blaming. It's taking responsibility without blame. Just like, oh, if the only person in my life that I can change is me, and my willingness to do that actually helps everybody that I come around with. To be that inspiring, to show that guide, to show that roadmap.
Yes.
Right? It's not that, oh man, yeah, I can tell you're a really depressed guy. You need to work with me. Like, I would never do it. Like, it's all, and we talked about, what about guys that don't want to feel their emotions? Aren't they? Well, then eventually they will.
Yeah.
I talked to a guy a couple weeks ago. He's 73 years old, and in tears he told me how his dad had never said "I love you." So this was bugging him for his entire life. And that's the kind of thing, our resistance, our insistence sometimes to think instead of feel, it affects way more than ourselves. Again, all energy is contagious. Even your refusal to feel the energy, that's contagious as well.
Would you say, now, first of all, would you say you're a Reiki guy, Andy?
Reiki is one of the tools I have, so that's kind of that's almost like the gateway drug of energy work. Yeah, I just call it energy work because there's too many words and modalities. It's all just working with energy. I don't try to differentiate it.
Would you say you're an empath, or I'm not asking you to define yourself. I'm just trying to like understand you a little better. Yeah.
So empath is a good term. So empath, I didn't know what that was. So I discovered I was a very empathic kid. I thought I was sensitive and weak. I was easy to cry, and I'd have like, I'm not sad, yet tears are coming out of me. What the hell's wrong with me? And I since learning, oh, I was this really empathic kid. I can remember being on the school bus and just bursting out into tears and having other people make fun of and stare at me. And I'm like, I wasn't sad. Why am I crying? And I couldn't tell anybody about that. But yeah, so I was very empathic, very intuitive. But there are ways to control it and to have boundaries. And I can tune in and feel the energy of anybody else. And now I do it by choice. I have tools and I use it. It used to be I just wander around and it would just feel gross. I'd walk through people's negativity and think it was me.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, and we all like, there's no debate that empathy is a real thing. We have mirror neurons that make us, encourage us to feel what we see in someone else, to bring us connected. Like, it's in our biology as well. So but yeah, there are degrees of empathicness, right? And again, it comes from how willing to flow are you. But if you don't realize that we are connected yet individuated, and where you decide to draw that line, to own your energy, it was trouble for me as a kid for a long time.
Yeah, brother. Yeah. I hear so many great now teachers, that were more empathic and more emotional, more intuitive as kids, but they also went through real torment as children and real hells, because I guess learning to manage and understand that energy, and learning to manage and understand themselves and get comfortable in their own skin. I think there's a journey there, it seems.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah. Like, I don't have children because I was such an unhappy child. Like, I'm not going to do this to somebody else.
Yeah.
And my dad was not tight with his father, so he wanted to be my best friend, and wouldn't treat me as a father. He taught me as a buddy. And I remember, as early as like the 3rd grade, being told that, mental illness and alcoholism, that's all passed down. It's in your genes. I'm like, well, then why the hell did you have me? Why would you do this to somebody? If this is your belief that this crud is just passed on, why did you have me? And like during my sex talk with my dad, he told me that, you're living proof that condoms break. I was like, thanks. Like, what am I supposed to do with that? Like, so it's a weird, disjointed relationships. But I always appreciate that he was willing to talk and open up and share. But I just had no train. I didn't know how to deal with that. I just saw him like, 4 hours a week. So I'd go like, oh, I'm only exist because a condom broke. Whoa, that's not helping my self-esteem. Or I thought,
you wanted to come through, I guess, Andy.
Yeah.
So Can you speak a little bit? We talked a little bit yesterday, Andy, and you mentioned the father wound, which was a really interesting idea. I think you probably just spoke to that a bit, but I'd love to ask you to elaborate on that. I've heard of the mother wound, which is like we've all got them, right? We're like mommy issues and stuff. But could you talk about the father wound, maybe and specifically with men?
Yep. So the father wound is the result of growing up with a physically absent dad or emotionally absent dad, or someone who's also very, very critical and negative. Mm-hmm. What it really comes down to is you did not receive the unconditional love from a masculine figure that you were entitled to and that would have supported you best. And, one of the common refrains is that, women grow up to marry their dads in an effort to heal the father wound. Or I mentioned earlier, how many guys say, I don't want to be my father. I don't want to be my father, right? They see this unhappy person. They see perhaps he was a guy that, had to drink every day to forget, his horrible day at work and just to tolerate life. So we think that's what being a man is, right? But the father wound shows up as low self-esteem, as anxiety, as depression, anger, rage. It can show up with you becoming an emotionally unavailable partner or parent as well. Because again, if we're not taught differently, we model. Most guys model their dad or go complete opposite, right? If you were growing up in a physically abusive household, yeah, you probably want, I want nothing to do with that man. I'm not going to be like him at all. And that my dad grew up in a physically abusive household, so he's like, I'm going to go opposite. I'm going to be my son's best friend, But the idea, the balance is in the middle there somewhere. But the father wound, without it being addressed, without being looked at, without willingness to feel the sadness, so many bad terms like man up doesn't mean look at yourself and grow. It means deny whatever you're feeling.
Right.
So I can't man up. No. Yeah. And, an unexamined life, it's going to feel empty. Right. And I know in my soul, men need meaning. We need to feel important. We want to feel like we matter. We want to feel like we are leading something, that we're providing something. And all those things become completely distorted if you didn't have that masculine energy, if you didn't know what a well-rounded, happy man was. Again, as a young kid, I would look around. My dad was an alcoholic and involved heavily in AA. I would just hear horror stories of, so I get to be an adult and I just live for the weekend and get drunk. And then I have to go to get help because all I do is get drunk, and that's life. Like, there's got to be a better way.
Yeah.
Right. But to go forward, we often have to look back. And a lot of guys think, well, it was just a childhood, just get over it, move on, get over it. And you can do that for a period, and a lot of people do. But wounds that never fully heal, it's like we have this festering, seeping wound in our energy, in our soul, in our heart, right? And there's all these distorted things of, well, I'm supposed to love my dad. I've got to love him. So unconsciously, I'll do the same bad behaviors as a way of honoring him if you don't heal it, if you don't look at it, right? But so much of male irritability, anger, taking things out, blaming others, again, it just comes from a lack of love. We all want to be unconditionally loved. And if that's something you didn't feel growing up with your mother or father, again, they both create wounds. And, I've come to think that I don't know anyone that doesn't have one or both of those wounds. It's almost like part of, to have the human experience, to want to evolve and grow and raise your consciousness, raise your awareness, discover that service matters, all those things, we must suffer the pains of childhood, choose to heal them so that we can become our best selves.
Andy, how do we begin? How might someone begin to identify their father wound, and then maybe some ideas around just going to work on that a bit?
Yeah. So trauma comes in all sizes, and there's the obvious big T trauma of you grew up in physical violence. You saw your parents physically abuse each other, or there was a gunplay, there was violence, there was robbery, you grew up in a war zone. But the smaller T trauma of feeling humiliated, of not making the team in third grade, not being, having the nerve to ask to go your like out and seeing you out with other people, all those little things add up too. But again, as men, we're told that doesn't matter, that's not holding you down. And it is. There's some tests. It's called ACEs, Adverse Childhood Experiences. You can Google it and find it. And there's like just 10 questions and it gives you a weight. And if you've had 4 or more of these just 10 pretty common items, more likely to be depressed, more likely to battle addiction. So again, our past creates our future. If we don't examine the past, if we just deny it, if we refuse to feel it, it makes a really distorted, ugly future. But it really all comes down to, judge your life by the fruits. If today I'm unhappy, if I've done everything I'm supposed to do, I've got the career and the house and the wife, yet something's missing, I feel empty, that's what's telling me that there's something to look at.
Yeah.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with looking at it. Then there's therapy, there's men's group, there's so many ways to do it, except the only thing I say this often too is that silence kills men. The worst thing to do is to keep it to yourself.
That speaks to that stoicism you mentioned.
Yeah. Yep. You can find that there's nothing you're going through that someone else isn't going through, and that someone else hasn't gotten through and is thriving after gone through it. Just isn't.
Yeah, brother.
There's your unique expression, but your uniqueness bottled up and contained as if you are, the only living person on the earth. That's just making your road much, much harder.
Yeah.
Men want to think that they're brave and courageous and fearless. All of that first requires fear. You can't be brave without fear, right? You can't be courageous without facing some fear.
Yes.
So you can't just be, you can't be this vision, this man box version of manhood without acknowledging the fears, the show, the charade. And when you realize that your show and charade is falling apart and you actually feel horrible and you feel self-destructive perhaps and self-loathing, and after you get through that, I'm like, great. It's that's your awareness. That's the real you waking up and stopping to we can all thrive instead of just survive. Like life is not meant to be drudgery. It really isn't. And for a long time, I thought the opposite. So if you're in the drudgery mode, I get it. I hear you. But, life is meant to be joyous. This isn't this is a life sentence, but it's not meant to be this life prison sentence, right? We all have the opportunity to grow, to heal, to expand, to help others. But, to be emotionally available for your partner, to create the best relationships, to have support, to bring children into the world and have them feel loved and nurtured and expanding for their whole lifetime, not just in their 30s, 40s, or beyond, not just at 75 and lamenting that they weren't ever told that anyone loved them. We owe our growth to each other.
That drudgery that you mentioned, we've all been there, and it seems like life comes in waves. It's like we're doing good, and then we enter the valley again, and we're back in the drudgery, and then we ascend again to the peak. And what I've been learning through a lot of the work I've been doing is that drudgery provides us a contrast to help create clarity for us in terms of what do I want, and helps us dream and become imaginative about, all right, what's next, and what would a fulfilled life that I get to say yes to every day actually look like.
Yep, no, totally agree. And so when I was young and depressed, I thought I lived in the valley. I thought normal people were happy and flat. It was just even. Always, it's like Ned Flanders. Oakley dokley, everything's great. And that's the way normal people lived. And I've come to find that, it's a roller coaster. And it's meant to be. So there will always be highs and lows. But my lows today are far above my old highs.
Yeah.
So it's like what we want in the stock market. Higher highs and higher lows. So our roller coaster is overall keeps going up.
Yeah, brother.
As you said, it's contrast. Our longing, our discontent is telling us things. Our negative feelings are telling us, I don't want to keep doing this. I want to go do that. Right? We're in control. Our feelings, our emotions are trying their hardest to give us information to better navigate our life.
Yeah. So good, brother. So good. I suspect that the practice of self-love or the cultivation of self-love with the men must be a piece of the work that you're doing. How big of a part of that cultivation is your work, Andy?
90%.
Yeah.
But I can't speak. If I just hi, I'm a self-love coach, no one would come near me, right? You're gonna spit take on me. Yeah. But that's the secret ingredient. I mean, the big secret behind Real Men Feel is we're reminding men that they're human.
Yeah.
Right. And I told earlier, like, men are so driven by fear. We don't want anyone to know that we want love. So we put on this whole fake charade because we're so afraid of being so hurt by not being loved that we go through all these torturous experiences to pretend we've got it all figured out.
Yeah, brother.
And if we were just willing to let the walls down, if we're willing to feel horrible, we would feel joyful. Right? It's the willingness. When I was growing up, I thought it was so much more important to be right. When I was 17, I thought I was so right about wanting to die. I thought I could convince others that they are wrong if they weren't suicidal. That's how distorted my thinking was. I've since, I would much rather be happy than right. So thank God that 17-year-old had no clue what he was saying. Yeah. I'm like, so thank God that no one, I hope no one listened to me. The people I talked to, they're like, no, that's crazy. I'm like, and yeah, it was. Right? We can convince ourselves of so many things, but our emotions are always trying to tell us the truth.
Yeah.
Right. And again, it's very different until you discern the difference. The emotions are your truth. The negative thoughts, the old stories, the you suck, you can't do this, all that, like that, for me, that negative voice is louder than a negative emotion is. That makes sense?
Yeah, for sure. Something I've been learning is that, to keep in mind and the value of remembering the impermanence of all things. And that for me allows me to a willingness to be with my emotions. I might be having a low day. I might be feeling depressed, sad, angry, like maybe just feeling like what's even the point some days, but also just remembering that it's okay. Like I'm gonna swing back up. You know what I mean? And that awareness that it might feel like that's all that exists. Like I am this sadness or I am this dread or whatever I'm experiencing, but just remembering that it'll swing back up again. And that allows me the willingness to kind of be with it and do the work I think that you're speaking to here today.
Yeah. And it all comes from your point of view. So I had a very negative, pessimistic point of view from the get-go. So when people, this too shall pass, I would think, so this good feel. Like I wasn't constantly depressed and miserable as a child.
Yeah.
But when I was happy and having fun, I thought, this too shall pass. I thought this was the lie. I thought my truth was the low, gross, kill yourself feelings. And I thought everything else was, I'm having a temporary, I'm having a peak of my shitty life and it'll go away. Yeah. I call it emotional tunnel vision too. Whatever I was feeling, I expected this to be the only feeling I'll ever have.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it was happiness. That could be great. But then it ends. See, I was supposed to be forever. Now I've crashed back down to where I really belong and live. And, life is showing me how much I suck by making me feel this gross. And, it's the stories I told myself until I was willing to just witness, step outside.
Yeah.
Right? Again, meditation recommended me for years. And I just thought, but before ever trying it, I said, I can't do that. I can't cross my legs, say Om. I can't do that. Then I tried things and had my own experience and, write down what I'm grateful for, even if it's, even if when I'm sure there's nothing, right? I'm just grateful. I only have to write one thing down that I'm grateful for. Like I would vent gratitude to get the pattern of it, right?
Yeah, for sure. So good, man. And as you kind of speak to all this, I know you're doing work involved. I'm not sure to what level with the Mankind Project. I think I see the emblem there behind you with these themes of what is it? Warrior, magician, king, and lover.
Correct.
How does this work tie into what you're doing, Andy?
So the Mankind Project, I did it 4 years ago. It was Boysen Hodgson, director of communication for the Mankind Project, was a guest on Real Men Feel. And I was like, I've heard about this. It's interesting. And they have a weekend event and a weekend initiation. And one was coming up it was 30 miles from my house and coming up the next month. I'm like, all right, universe, I'll dive into this. And I actually did the math. I think I had already been to like 35 multiple day personal growth events by the time I went to this one. But I was always one of the very few, or possibly even the only man. It was female driven, right? Spiritual, personal growth. There was all women willing to do that work much more than men. So at this event with nothing but men, what struck me was how much more powerful it was. And I realized how much more healing I did around, again, I shared some of maybe I didn't share, I don't remember. I was molested as a child by my next door neighbor at the same time my parents were getting divorced. And I thought, if I tell anybody, I'll be the next man kicked out of my house. So I didn't trust men. I didn't trust adults. All this really came to fruition at the event. So I'm surrounded by guys. I'm just, oh, that guy looks scary. That's intimidating. Oh, what am I doing here? And all like the oldest, like third grade recess fears are showing up. And I've done it before, like, all right, this is going to be interesting, to be challenging. Let's go. And I would often make myself go first at events and show the guys how it's done, and be a blubbering mess. I'm like, oh my God, it's so much more powerful than I expected. And other guys tell me like, you set the bar so high, Andy, like we had to. That's the good side of male competitiveness. When you're doing the work, oh, you're gonna cry that much? Well, I'll cry this much. Oh, you want to shock about that wound? Well, I'll tell you this wound, and it can work in our favor. But again, what blew me away was the difference of doing something just with men. The different level of support I felt, the different level of healing, and it was literally a life-changing weekend for me. I came up with an entirely new perspective, and it's 5 years ago. I'm still friends with some of the guys I met. And I've since gone on and staffed some of the events too. So yeah, one of the things I've heard from many people is a lack of initiation in our society. And, the Mankind Projects offer initiation into manhood.
Thank you so much, brother. As we kind of draw toward the end of our conversation here today, brother, I would love to invite you to share, man, like, what is inspiring you the most right now about life, about yourself? What ideas are really inspiring to you right now, Andy?
The notion of more. I used to get, I would, take a class when I program, heal something about myself, and I didn't stay happy all the time, right? I still had suicidal thoughts. I'm like, what? Why is there always more? Fuck, there's more. I don't want to do more. I'm going to take my ball and go home. I'm done. I've had it. Over the last 6 or 8 years, I'm excited there's more. So from about age 8 to 18, I didn't think I'd live past 18. I'm going to be 55 this summer. And I'm like, I can't believe that. I've lived longer by surprise than I ever planned to. So it feels like I'm playing with house money. A lot of people talk about how energetic I am, and I've got all this energy, and I'm like, I almost feel like it's because I denied so much of it for so young. Like I am naive and childlike and want to have fun, and I love amusement parks and roller coasters and movies and concerts still. And I just put a deposit down. I'm headed to Egypt in January.
Oh, so cool.
So I am a citizen of the world. I love to travel, have new experiences, meet new people. So as long as there's this notion of more really has me fired up, and it's always interesting to see that. Wow, that's a word I used to hate. Yeah, but Andy, there's more. Matt, you didn't do it all. There's more to finish, Matt, right? There's more now. Oh, crap. And now I'm like, yay, there's more. I think earlier you said you would probably always be working on yourself. There's always more. I'm like, yeah, because, in my work, especially with the Akashic Records, if you're done, you're done. You move on, right? So as long as there's something else to explore in yourself, something to heal, something to share with someone else, something to teach someone else, that life force keeps flowing through us. The universe is expanding, and it's expanding at a faster and faster rate, right?
Yes.
What fuels that expansion is each of us. It's our own expansion, our soul expressing more, wanting to be more. Every new thought, every new experience, I say, is the fuel for the universe to expand. So it's our duty to feel good, to find what brings us joy, to share that, and to go out.
Yes. Yeah, I've been on that tip too, brother. I feel like our nature is expansion. As you mentioned, we are a product of the universe. We are part of the universe, and the nature is in constant expansion. And I look and our nature is to grow. And you look all throughout nature, like water wants to flow. That's the cleanest, healthiest, most vibrant water. The stagnant water is death, and a tree is either growing or it's dying and decaying, one or the other, so that state of expansion is our most natural nature, I believe.
And it's not judging itself.
Right.
You're like, I don't feel as green as I used to. Like,
or hurry up.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, brother.
Cool. We are the wisest and most destructive species on the planet.
Yes, brother. Yes, brother.
And if we take responsibility for that, we can change it.
Amen, brother. Amen. Andy, thank you so much for the conversation today. I feel really good about the conversation. I want to invite you to share where and how people can connect with you, and anything else you'd like to share that you have coming up. Before that, is there anything else further you'd like to add to the conversation today as we do that?
Yeah, I just take an action, do something. Mm-hmm. Don't let this be, oh, listen to these two wackos talk. What hooked you in, and explore that further. If it's with Matt, if it's me, just somebody. I find coaching is one of the most powerful forces on the earth.
Yeah.
That accountability, that support, that's what we all need. Mm-hmm. So work with somebody, dive into your more.
Yeah.
But yeah, Real Men Feel is the podcast. That's available on, you can watch it on YouTube or on Facebook. It's available on every podcast platform there is in the world. So if you listen to things, search Real Men Feel there, you'll find that to listen to as well.
Yeah.
And if you visit everything I'm doing, the hub for me is at theandygrant.com. That's THE Andy Grant, me.com. Mm-hmm. And if you go there on my homepage, there's a Get Guided Meditations button. And that'll give you a sample of the energy work I talked about, because it's not really, I call it a meditation, but I'm going to walk you through some energetic practices. Like you'll tune into life force, you'll get a grounding cord, you'll have some experiences. And there's a series of 3 things, and they're all short, they're under 10 minutes, but to give you an experience, because energy work is much better experience than it is explained.
Yeah.
So that's my gift to everyone that visits me, visits the site, wants to have an experience. Doesn't mean you ever have to talk to me. You can have an experience called, well, that was weird. That guy's nuts. That's fine too. Again, everything I do with clients, everything I do for myself on a daily basis to feel alive is something I used to make fun of for years.
Yeah.
So wherever you are in your awareness, your level of openness, your willing of trying new experiences, I bless you and hope you get through any restrictive phase as quickly and easily as you can.
Yeah. Beautiful, brother. Thanks so much for joining. Andy Grant, Real Men Feel. It's been an honor to have you, brother. It's been an inspiring, energizing conversation. I'm so appreciative. It has been so.
Awesome. My pleasure. Thanks for asking me, Matt.
Thank you, brother. Have a beautiful afternoon.
You too. Be well.
All right. Boom.